two pile shuffle or the mulligan pile shuffle?
The mulligan pile shuffle, I think, is more so the one that upsets me, just because, I mean, granted, this isn't timed at the moment, but in a timed event, like, that's pretty much borderline slow play to me.
All right, guys, so thanks for sticking with us. We're on to the top 8 of tonight's West Virginia State Championship, the local store-sponsored event. Down to 8 players. We'll get into exactly what 8 players made the top 8 here. We've been talking a little bit off camera about it. But for now, let's get into our It's our quarterfinal feature match. On the right, from the Four Horsemen, is Kazu Negri. He's our number 1 seed. He was at table 4 in the last round of Swiss, had to play, so he ended up with the highest point total. He's on the play as a result, and his opponent is Zack Duncan from Pittsburgh, who is playing Red-Green Monsters. Zack is on the mull to 6 here. Kazu scrying on turn 1, and then resolving a Thoughtseize on turn 2, revealing Domri, Domri Forest, 2 Sylvan Caryatids, a Mountain, and a card I can't make out. I think it's Nalia.
Okay. So the take here, if you don't have a Hero's Downfall, is Domri. Obviously, if you do have a Hero's Downfall, you're more fine with that and taking the Nalia. But what was more concerning is Kazu's order of operations that turn, which was play Scryland and then a Thoughtseize, which really indicates to me, like, if I'm sending a Zack seat, I'm thinking Kazu needs to peel more lands. Like, if you're more interested in what's on top of your deck than what's in your opponent's hand, you're probably fishing for lands and or action.
That's a very pertinent point here. I think there's an argument to be made for taking the Sylvan Caryatid if you didn't have a redundant copy of it as well. But so we end up taking the Domri.
Sequence his plays sometimes. He says he does it on purpose.
It's a very small thing. Like
he did miss the land drop though.
Yep. So you were exactly right. Is Kazu stuck on 2 lands here?
The Sylvan Caryatid is also going to help Zack by turning off any Devour Flesh that Kazu has.
And we're tapping 3, which is not a good sign. So, no, it's a Courser. That may have been the card I mistook for a Nalia.
Value too.
Yep. So gaining 1 off the Courser's triggered ability and revealing Gore-Clan Rampager.
The play next turn, which is the Gore-Clan Rampager. While Courser is very good at obviously netting you card advantage, obviously it's a situation here that you would not want your opponent to know that you are drawing a Gore-Clan Rampager.
Yeah, that's like sometimes you get advantage off of a Goblin Guide by knowing what they drew, but a lot of the times you wish that information was private. But it is a give and take. Obviously, Zack netting de facto card advantage off being able to play his land from the top rather than from his hand.
Kazu found a swab, so we'll see if I think he has Lifebane Zombies in his main board.
He does.
So if that's a play here that he wants to make.
Hero's Downfall on the Courser. Which is interesting because we know the Gore-Clan Rampager is coming down immediately. I mean, we could have. I'm trying to remember what was in his hand from the outset.
Well, it also clues in that he doesn't have any creatures in his hand because a Pack Rat or a Night Veil Spectre would have been good on this board. It would have obviously been good last turn whenever Kazu didn't play any spells. So he doesn't have a Pack Rat, and a Night Veil Spectre could block the Courser. Or got the Gore-Clan Rampager out of Zack's hand. So Kazu must be just setting on a hand either for Desecration Demons as we see
it's going to get
another Thoughtseize come down.
No, that's a Lifebane Zombie, and it's going to net the a second copy of Gore-Clan Rampager. And here's the thing, too. I mean, Zack's out in front, but he's got 2 Mana Dorks in his hand. He's got a 4/4 in play, which is fine, but the only damage that Kazu's taken so far has been self-inflicted. Well, he did draw Storm Breath off the top, though. Oh, wait a minute.
That's a Xena God.
The Xena God.
So here's an 8-ball.
Yep. Get you with Gore-Clan. Good for 8 now because of the triggered the triggered ability from.
Kazu's at 8 now.
He's at 10.
Oh no, that's right.
He took 8 down to 10. What I was going to say is like Kazu's like his whole hand is business because he's been missing land drops. So. But the problem with if he can deal with that Gore-Clan Rampager, he's not in the worst shape.
Whatever threat Zack has in his hand now is just going to come down and double strike. The turn it comes in.
Yeah, I mean, true, but we know Zack's hand exactly is 2 Sylvan Caryatids currently. So, I mean, again, if the top of his deck is as kind to him as it was last turn, and when he drew the Xenagos, you're exactly right. I mean, Storm Breath is all but lethal here, give or take. Of course, Kazu's passing back with a grip full of cards and 5 lands. So,
and we've mentioned that the Devour Flesh is now turned off by the Sylvan Caryatid.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going all in on the Caryatids.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't have any play this turn, there's literally no reason to not run them out.
There's nothing that punishes this.
Mm-hmm. You can't attack with the Defender.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He can't attack with the Xenagos now.
Yep, it is live. I'm not sure what he.
Well, he gave the trigger to the one that got downfall.
Okay, I'm sure. Yeah. So, what Xenagos' stats?
6/5.
Yeah, let's bring up Xenagos here.
And Xenagos cannot pump himself. Actually, now that.
Yeah, I think it says another creature.
And what's also good there is by downfalling Gorklan, it turns off Xenagos, so you don't actually take any damage.
Correct.
Because at the damage step, it's no longer a creature. So. Kazu is sticking in there. I mean, he's been fortunate that Zack has drawn multiple copies of Sylvan Caryatid here. Well, the first Sylvan Caryatid is great. The second and third one much less powerful in the sense that it's very difficult to get a lot of advantage in your very aggressive deck with 3 copies of an O2 mana producer.
So we attack.
It is another target creature.
We're representing another single target.
There's a Scavenging Ooze.
Damage spell, which the Scavenging Ooze are now can go up to a 5/5, which can obviously get doubled by Xenagos and become a 10/10. I don't know if Zack sees that or not. Would be surprised if he missed it. But Kazu obviously representing another removal spell here. If it's Bow Blight, there's a bit of sequencing that has to happen here. I don't think that.
This is also. I'm not sure if it really matters ultimately, but at some point, I was going to say Zack has to do these individually because there is windows at which Kazu can respond. I don't think in order for this to really work, he'd need like 2 copies of Bioblight in order to get that Scavenging Ooze with it.
Right.
But he's also doing this pre-combat here, which is I'm not sure if there's really any reason to do it pre versus doing it mid-combat.
Well, it's to see who gets the Xenagos trigger. Like, obviously, if the Scavenging Ooze dies, he can give it to the Elvish Mystic.
But I don't think Kazu's ever killing something until combat anyway, so... I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
So the Xenagos gets turned off again.
Mm-hmm.
The Elvish Mystic comes in for 1, and this Lifelink Zombie's done 9 damage now. This is, of course, the part of the game where the mono black deck can start chaining Grey Merchants, which is... with the amount of Hero's Downfall this been uses, probably Kazu's only line, barring some pack rats, that he's going to be able to get out of this game. But now he just passes turn again.
I'm pretty sure there are creatures in his deck, but he does not seem to be drawing them. And to be perfectly honest, Zack running pretty good here off the top. He drew 4 lands very early and has not drawn another land since. So, and at this point, even these Elvish Mystics represent a reasonable clock, in the sense that they get pumped by the Xenagos. A bear is a 5-turn clock, whereas Elf is not. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I think he missequenced his Xenagos trigger. I think he swung in and then tried to give it the pump.
That may be the case. I know there's a table judge right there, so that will get sorted out. This is the point of the tournament where you can't get away with small things like that. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen there. I'm sure we'll sort that out as life totals are updated.
Yep. And that's a very easy call for a judge to make. If it is it could have just been Kazu also making the decision to Bow Blight a 1/1. That could have been the delay in time. But now we're just face down a board where basically Zack has nothing. Zack has a very powerful enchantment and 7 lands in play, for all intents and purposes. But none of those characters can block a life bane zombie, and that's the only creature that Kazu is attacking with.
Yeah, I thought he missed a life total update. I think Kazu's keeping track of it for both. I always feel bad in these situations that we have no manual. I guess the table judge could do it, but they're judging two matches at the same time. So
yeah, we're kind of short-handed a little bit on judges today.
I don't know. There were 5.
Since one's in here.
But yeah, I mean the thing with Kazu's hand is it's all business because he's missing so many land drops. So it has to be all removal spells basically. 3 mana for.
I'm telling you, he can have anywhere from 2 to 4 Devour Flesh, and those are just absolutely dead. So we're going to eventually get to a point in the game where those are the cards that he's drawing.
Yeah. And there's also a point at which you're not willing to cast them simply because.
Yeah.
And there's a Xenagos the Planeswalker. This seems like a flavor fail in that you can have a Xenagos the God and Xenagos the Planeswalker in play. But it is allowed, so we're going to make a Satyr here.
So we're going to be attacking for 10 this turn, unless Kazu has a way to interact with it. He's going to die.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, a Devour Flesh would work here. It would turn off Xenagos again.
It would turn off Xenagos, and we're not even attacking with it? I've not taken my hand off this yet.
The old haven't stopped touching it, still have the option. That is how it works.
Yeah,
and
Kazu scoops a large number of cards from his library.
Yeah, either Kazu is scooping or he's entering the portion where he just draws 40 cards. But
both phases seem good.
Yeah, I generally think that the mono black deck is favored in this matchup, but not the way that the game played out.
Obviously, not favored.
Kazu getting stuck on 2 lands for a majority of the early turns didn't help him at all.
And seeing the 2 pivotal cards.
Don't they get to see the sideboards, or
No, it's not public deck lists, so I just want to make sure.
We've kept the players from watching the stream.
Yeah, we've tried to keep players still involved in the tournament out of here as much as possible.
That makes sense. I mean,
well, we want everybody to be on a fair shake, that's for sure. A question in the chat was asking about Shaked 4 dice. He lost his winning in to Kazu.
Yep.
So we're into Game 2 here, and Kazu's starting off much better in Game 2 than he did in Game 1. So here's the point where the game turns. Does Zack have a Mizium Mortis? I mean, he can definitely beat a turn 2 Pack Rat. This deck can definitely race a Pack Rat. But it's much better if you have the Mortars.
Like does. Oh.
No, it's Caryatid.
Okay, now, the Pack Rat math is actually very, very hard in this.
Yeah, because you can lose the race very quickly.
Well, they also get up to Overload Mizium Mortars very quickly, and they sideboard up to 2 Chandra Pyramasters. So Chandra and then into an Overload of Mizium Mortars can really mess up your Pack Rat health total. And you can just easily lose all your Pack Rats if you're a turn behind than what you think you are. It's very easy to commit to this plan and then just get blown out by realizing that a Chandra +1 wrecked your entire team.
What is that?
It's a Scavenging Ooze.
Okay.
It looks like an elf. And there's also no point at which Kazu has to go all in on Pack Rats anyway. Like, he can just...
We can overload Mizium Mortars next turn.
Yeah.
Looks like
we're discarding a swamp. It's been a long day, my friends. Yep. So end of turn, making a Pack Rat token. So Zack like representing overloaded Mizium Mortars next turn.
But still, I mean, Kazu can easily just pass with 3 mana up and make a rat on instep if there's not a Mortar, since Mortars is obviously sorcery speed.
Yeah, Kazu. The thing about the Pack Rat is you can make a Pack Rat every turn and never attack until you kill them.
Yes.
Like, it's very much a waiting game. But yeah, I mean, Zack does definitely have answers. Some of these decks in the past, I know the big Boros decks used to play a copy of Homing Lightning as well, so you could play basically effectively 5.
I think that's pronounced Homie.
Homie Lightning.
Go get your homies.
But it does basically act as another copy of Mizium Mortars, which is obviously one of the best answers too.
crashing in here. Did we just no? We discarded Kazu very smartly discarding a swamp instead of a creature to his pack red. That way, the Scavenging Ooze can't activate and become a 3/3 this turn. So now it's a game of if Zack does have a Mizzy Mortars, he's definitely going to want to block with his Scavenging Ooze here. If he does not have a Mizzy Mortars, you don't block.
I mean, it's only 6 damage.
This is a very clear indication to me that he does not have Mizzy Mortars.
Is he blocking with the Caryatid?
He is blocking with the Summon Caryatid. We are going all in on pack rats now, ladies and gentlemen.
Discarded a Grey Merchant.
We've discarded a Gary.
Before damage, I'm going to activate and eat. So very heads up play.
We also need to watch out because I think Zack put a discarded Gorkclan Rampager from a Lifebane zombie in his graveyard and ate it the last game, according to the chat. So obviously it's very hard for us to get out there and correct something like that. And there's a judge sitting right there, but that is. I don't think it ended up mattering because the life total. I mean, Kazu was never threatening lethal at any point,
No.
and the.
It was a one.
The ooze got immediately Hero's Downfall, but still something important to note.
I think Kazu ended up Hero's Downfalling 2 Rampagers and then a Scavenging Ooze. Because he did draw 3...
Well, he didn't draw any creatures, so he had a lot of removal.
I'm pretty sure he had 3 Hero's
mana
Downfalls.
for a Domri here?
Yep.
So there's a Domri Rod.
Maybe fight 4+.
You're not fighting here. Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess you could with the now 3/3.
Yeah, the discarding of the Grey Merchant must have been either an oversight by Kazu or this is my only option. We're going to go for the real pack rat, so no fear of Whip of Erebus out of Zack.
Is there a reason why you should... I mean, I guess if you're playing Cyclonic Rift, then going after the real one is much better.
For this one, I'd say it's because you can use Scavenging Ooze to eat the real one.
It's true. It's actually a very valid point, and one we should probably have been aware of since he's been proactively eating a lot of creatures out of graveyards.
So we can Stone Raid him here if we attack, but we lose a rat in the process unless we drew a Mutavault or another pack rat. I don't know how much it's worth taking a mana off Zack's side of the board, but we do have the 5 lands, so if we have another pack rat, we can afford to play it and have an activation and just get this Domri off the board.
What we need is Hero's Downfall here on the Domri.
Oh, Hero's Downfall, the Scavenging is in a heartbeat.
Another pack rat.
Yeah, this is where this is where the numbers get out of hand because Zack was not planning on facing 4/4 rats this turn.
Yes, you're exactly right. 5 mana usually means you have the ability to cast a removal spell and make 1 token. But when you just make a token for the old school 2 mana cost,
yeah,
it does throw things off here. So Kazu's pack rats are now 3/3s. He can make them 4/4s by discarding another card. Running out of cards in hand here. I think he just has 2 left. Obviously on the play. Still haven't found Underworld Connections.
Very good game.
Yeah, these have been good games. Even the first game, which was a little bit not the first time tonight that we've seen mana troubles greatly affecting results, but Kazu did make a game of it in the end.
So we've gotten ahead on rats. We're not ahead of Mizzy Mortars, so I still like moving in all in. If you move all in, basically you're trading a card in your hand for the Scavenging Ooze, so whatever card you're discarding turns into a removal spell.
If you're Zack, do you even block with the ooze?
This
Depends on what you have in your hand. If you have a Storm Breath Dragon in your hand, it's questionable.
Oh.
So that's what the discussion was in Kazu's head.
Yeah. So before the see this is awkward here because if you tap and gain that 1 life, your Domri's 100% dying, and you're taking a lot of damage this turn.
Yeah,
You're taking 6.
Yeah, 6 because he's using the Downfall.
And he decides, I mean, I think this is the correct play. At least you give yourself the opportunity to chump block should you want to. but that also takes you off mortars next turn. So
I think Kazu should still probably go after the Domri here.
oh, 100% go after the Domri.
like,
Like, you're trying to keep, like, Kazu's already tight on resources. He's down to 1 card in hand. I think Zack has 4 and an active Domri. I would send both of these at Domri.
Well, it's also a matter of the creatures that Zack can play. You don't want him to get a free activation and draw something like Polycranius, which will just halt your entire attack for a whole turn. As next turn he can only have 4/4 rats. Unless he draws unless he draws specifically Mutavault or another pack rat.
looks like he swung 1 at Domri, 1 at...
No, I do not like that at all.
So Zack giving himself the best opportunity to draw something to put up a roadblock as he tries to work his way up to Midzi Mortars.
Domri activation misses here. So 4 mana for Pelucranos.
Nostrazina goes.
Well,
Showed him a card.
yeah.
Perfectly legal.
Yeah. It is, in fact, Pelucranos. But we are fortunate in the sense that Kazu doesn't have to worry about a that's very good.
Yeah.
And serve in for 6 at
Yeah, he's going to send 3 into Domri, since that doesn't change the clock for next turn.
Yep. He can kill it. So Zack facing lethal on board, assuming an activation. We are out of mortars range here. If he does have homing lightning on the sideboard, we're still drawing live. But looking grim for Zack here. 2 mana for a Caryatid that we knew was in his hand because he accidentally played it last turn. So he's not dead here on board. A Devour Flesh.
Still does not kill
You would
him.
need a 3rd mana source, right?
Blocks?
Zack smart enough to not to block instead of taking lethal damage.
It's only for 9.
That's a pro play.
It's only 9, man.
It is. You're true. It is only 9, but I think Zack is not too shabby a player to have made it this far. So seems like blocking is in his best interest. And I like Kazu here not activating, because then you don't get blown out by 6 land and mortars. Like, the math doesn't really change at all.
Yeah,
I think another thing is last turn Zack played a Scryland, so now he's at 5, so he probably has Dragon.
Oh, and he doesn't know. He knew. I think he shoved the card. Well, this is not a snap keep here from Zack, so he decides to keep it. So Zack on the play here, having lost game 2, on the mull to 6 with his red-green monsters deck, leaving a card on top off of Temple of Abandon. And his mono-black opponent. So let's see what's up. This is what we kept. Arbor Colossus, Domri, Pelucranos, Domri. We only have 1 other land here, though. Now, we did leave a card on top. I can only imagine it's a land.
It has to be a land.
Yeah, so I think we take at least 1 of the Domris, I would think, right?
Yeah.
That'd be my guess.
You're more content if your opponent flails this out and that second Domri is any other card in his deck. But you definitely want to take the Domri so he can't cast it.
Yeah. Well, the Domri also clears out creatures for you to draw lands.
I think I said you're going to take the Domri so he can't cast it, and then just stopped. As if like that's breaking Magic strategy news, guys. If you just make your opponent discard a spell, they won't be able to cast it. Unless it's a Past in Flames. So there's a Caryatid off the top.
That's what he kept on top.
So
I mean, it's just as good as a land.
Here's Kazu's opportunity to Devour Flesh.
How about you eat a tree?
It's only fair that if Zack's going to top deck, like how if Kazu did have a Devour Flesh, remember Zack keeping that on top off the Scry land, like be punished immediately for that. But there's a chance the Devour Fleshes aren't in Kazu's deck.
I don't know if he plays them or not.
He reveals a Courser of Crufix off the Domri activation.
So this combination of cards of Courser and Domri is very well suited to dig him out of this. Volume of 6.
A lot. Yeah, he's definitely getting the card advantage that he needs.
Kazu does that time to time. Stops play, thinks about it.
Stops and diddles.
He's got underworld connections in his hand. If this is play this turn, then he's falling desperately behind. What we need is a third land of Hero's Downfall on this Domri. Because there's no way that Zack has drawn another land in this sequence, so still all the cards in his hand are stranded. Well, no, the course he just drew, obviously.
I don't want to undersell how powerful this combination is if Zack can set it up.
Lifebane Zombie.
That'll get the Courser. Because, like I was saying, this combination of Courser and Domri...
And he has a Destructive Revel... He's also drawn a Destructive Revelry, if I can talk.
Yeah, we're definitely taking the Courser. Because it is a card that...
There we go, they caught the Exile one this time.
And what's important here as well is that, barring... What would you have to draw here?
Mizium Mortar?
A Mortars is good, but I was thinking of more... Well, I guess even an Elf would do it here, but Domri doesn't have anything he can fight the Lifebane Zombie with, so the Lifebane is going to keep the Domri honest here. There's a Pelucranos.
The second Pelucranos never as good as the first.
No. But the problem for Zack is that he's stuck on 2 mana here.
Yeah.
If Kazu can find a Devour Flesh, like this game is remarkably lopsided for the time being.
Here comes a Desecration Demon.
We definitely attack into Domri here, right?
Yeah.
Domri Emblem is one of the scariest things in Magic.
Well, Domri's also, like I said, Domri is clearing off creature from the top of his deck to get him to lands, which is usually not the way that you want to look at that card. But in this scenario, it's obviously...
Well, the way we're splitting these up, we either have another Lifebane Zombie or we have a Thoughtseize.
Looks like maybe the Underworld connections here to draw one card that's going to get Revelried. Oh,
it's another Lifebane. Lifebane's very good in this matchup, revealing Arbor Colossus, the Revelry, Xenagod, and then 2 Pelucranos.
Looks like Xenagod may be getting eaten here.
Yeah, you don't take one of the copies of Pelucranos.
Update from the floor. Max is up 1-0 on Alec in the semifinals.
Okay.
And Richard and
Tom Medvec?
Yes, they are going to Game 3 in the quarterfinals.
Well, good for them for expediting the semis. So we take Xenagod here.
Yeah.
I think that's the right call.
I do too, yeah. I mean, you can deal with the...
Oof.
Yeah, the chat said he had a Thoughtseize in his hand.
I was about to say, if you don't take the Arbor Colossus, it's a clear signal that you don't have a Desecration Demon, and since he's leaving that Destructive Revelry, it must be a sign that he either doesn't care about this Underworld Connections getting blown up.
I think the Underworld Connections is maybe the worst card in his deck still. It's very slow against a deck that can pop out... the Stormbreaths get the job done very quickly.
I'd be very surprised if it's still in his deck.
Stormbreath?
No, Underworld Connections.
It is. Maybe that was a Thoughtseize, I guess, but it looked like Underworld Connections. So we did draw a Mana Dork here, and we are going to use it to... wow, that's very aggressive. But, I mean, the Domri's going to die anyway, so that, I mean, that's perfectly fine. But this is not the situation that Zack was hoping for in this game, where his Domri basically just drew 2 cards, which were...
Domri just 2 for 1 himself.
Let's see what Kazu's got as a follow-up here. Those Lifebane Zombies are amazing in this matchup. Obviously playing them in his main deck as a hedge against this exact matchup. I mean, likely coming off the results of yesterday's Star City Open, deciding to hedge a little bit.
Yeah, I'm
but
not exactly sure.
No other business from Kazu here, giving Zack another chance to draw out of this. But Zack still cannot find that third land.
Well, the card he replaces is also Nightvale Spectre, which has fallen out of favor since the format's diversified like it is.
And he drew the Mutavault, so...
Well, the Mutavault's...
There's a Stomping Ground, it looks like. I think he drew a Stomping Ground.
Maybe he's trying to decide if he wants to pay the 2.
Well, I mean, if you don't pay the 2, I don't know what you were waiting for. like you don't think you have the... I don't think you have the option to conserve your life total at this point. You pay the 2, you slam Pelucranos, and you hope it's good enough.
I don't know. Kazu's got a lot of cards in his hand. He has been sandbagging the last couple turns, so...
Yeah, he has been playing out late.
He's definitely got a removal spell.
So, as expected, plays the Stomping Ground, untapped so he can play any spell. Immediately Doombladed, we saw that coming, but I mean, like you said, it's somewhat inevitable based on the way this game is played out. Kazu's missed land drops. Serve in for 5. So dropping Zack down to 7.
So he took 2 turns off his clock there by making that play.
We also have to be wary of gray merchants at this point as well, which could. I guess Kazu deciding if he wants to. If you have a gray merchant in your hand, then you just put it on so your gray merchant is for 6 next turn.
I guess the card to debate would be Devour Flush at this point.
Maybe another Doomblade for another Pelukinos.
It's very unlikely that anything that Zack casts does not get immediately murdered. We did find the 4th land, so we do get to play Xenagos and leave up our Sylvan Caryatid to block here, so we can make a Satyr.
Plus,
he plussed it.
Well, if he doesn't plus it, it just dies the next turn to a life bane. Tell me all you get is 2/2 out of it.
Yeah, but that's
this turn he can gain a 3 life, and then also that a 2/2 next turn.
But Kazu can just attack him and then Grey Merchant for the win. I guess it doesn't change anything, right?
Correct.
Down to 4. So is there a Grey Merchant in his hand? Nope, there's a Thoughtseize, revealing Arbor Colossus and that poor Destructive Revelry. He sided it in. He sides it in, obviously for Underworld connections, possibly for Whip, but just has sat in his hand the entire game. It's very reminiscent of the Pro Tour in one of the penultimate matches where the Rug Twin opponent playing against Malyrapod, when the game was finally over, had two copies of Ancient Grudge in his hand. So make 1 with Xenagos for 6 mana to cast a Rurik Thar.
I think that really matters at this point. He's going to take 6.
Yep. He takes 6. And Zack's seen enough.
That to the Mutavault attack.
Well.
He tapped the Caryatid.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's still only for 5, right? He's at 7?
No, you have him at 4.
Oh, they didn't update the thing, but he was down to 4.
Yep.
So our life total is correct. Well, so congratulations to Kazu Negri. He stumbled in game 1, but came back in 2 sideboarded games to take this quarterfinal matchup. He moves on to the semifinals. On the other side of the semifinals, already underway, we've got Max Turner up a game against Alec Myers.
It's like he brought in